In this video, we'll solve the equation the floor of x equals b times x, where b is greater than or equal to 2. So b can be a real number in this case. So the floor of x equals n implies that n is less than or equal to x, less than n plus 1. And we know that bx is equal to floor of x, which is equal to n. This means that x is n over b. So we'll plug this value of x into that inequality with equality. So n over b is less than or equal to n is less than n plus 1. We can multiply by b by every term because b is greater than 0. So this will be b times n is less than or equal to n is less than n times b plus b. So this means that bn is less than or equal to n, and n is less than n times b plus b. So if we move n to the left-hand side, this will be b minus 1 times n is less than 0, less than or equal to 0. And let's move the b to the other side. So we have negative b is less than b minus 1 times n. This means that n is bigger than minus b over b minus 1. We can divide by b minus 1 because b minus 1 is greater than 0, or b is greater than 1. So putting those together, and this inequality means that n is less than or equal to 0. Putting these together, we get that negative b over b minus 1 is less than n is less than or equal to 0. So I'll rewrite that. And this we can rewrite as negative. So we have b minus 1 over b minus 1. But we need b, so we have plus 1 over b minus 1. Less than n, less than or equal to 0. So this will be, when we multiply by negative, so this will be 1. This will be minus 1 minus 1 over b minus 1. It's less than n is less than or equal to 0. But earlier we know that b is greater than or equal to 2. So this means that b minus 1 is bigger than or equal to 2 minus 1, which is 1. 1 over b minus 1 is less than or equal to 1. When we multiply by negative, it inverts it, so it'll be negative 1 over b minus 1 is bigger than or equal to 1. Negative 1. So we're going to subtract by negative 1. So this means that negative 1 minus 1 over b minus 1 is bigger than negative 2. So now we have the inequality. Negative 2 is less than or equal to negative b over b minus 1, right? Less than n, less than or equal to 0. This means that because this is an inequality and this is equality, we take the inequality only, so this will be less than, so this is negative 2, less than n, less than or equal to 0. And n is an integer. This means that n is an element of 0 and negative 1. And x, well, that is n over b, right? Which means that x is an element. So n is 0, so 0 over b is 0. And negative 1 over b is just negative 1 over b. So those are the real solutions to this equation, and that's the end of the video.